2. I'm not going to keep this in this time. Don't panic. 1. And welcome back to Pro and Noob session 8. I think it's 8. I just did the thumbnails. I can't remember if
it's 8. It's 8. It's in there.
I'm pretty certain it's 8. It says it right there on the screen. I'm blind and dumb. But yeah. Episodes 20, 21, and 22. I had a small panic when I started watching these. Because my brain, when you counted these wrong, you're going to have like one left at the end. I'm like, oh, crap. Then I had to convince myself that no, 3 from 20 is 22, not 24. You're fine.
Yes.
It's like, I'm a big boy.
Mitch not being able to do basic math aside, he just got done saying that American schools are bad, which is really funny. They are, but you can't count. So shut up.
I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
It's a 10.
Ichi, ni, san, yango, loku. I can't remember the rest.
10 commandments. Sorry, you set off my Hamilton triggers.
That's 1 to 10 in 3 different languages.
But these 3 episodes, I said last week, I was a little whelmed.
Does the whelm continue?
Confidently say these 3 episodes had fucking sauce. There was so much sauce, especially the first episode of the batch. Holy shit. That was so much fun. That was so much fun.
Like it.
I was like, I don't know. It's not that I like have had like a deficit of cartoony villains in this show. Because we were just talking not too long ago about how like there like a number of the villains in this have felt like fun C-list Batman villains. And this Poirot guy was just a blast. I mean, on a character level, maybe a little undercooked, I can say, but like just the fun and frankly the absurdity of so much of this guy that goes mostly unexplained. That again, it's just so much sauce. He has a force field. Sure, this is technology we have not seen in the rest of the show. Even the fucking starships don't have shielding of any kind. This guy has a force field that can stop bullets. Sure, go for it. This guy reacts to cats the way Captain Hook reacts to, crocodiles. Sure, I love it. This guy has these weird proportions. He looks like he's built like a bowling ball, but he's like clearly on the thinner side. It's just this crazy cloak that is an armory. You got it. Like I was so sold on this episode. And there was a brief moment I thought that maybe this was a flashback episode.
Oh, interesting.
For a brief moment, I was curious. I was like, is this the injury that Spike suffered that put him with Julia? Because again, the way the flashbacks are framed, it's he gets hurt, Julia finds him, helps him. It's not clear on when he got the one procedure with the eye, but he's hurt, he's found, he's helped. They fall in love, and then he turns on the red dragon, does some crazy shit, and then they never see each other again, at least up to this point. How long ago that happened, any of the details we don't know, but I was like, is this maybe how he got hurt? Like, is this how he got really hurt? And, and obviously we, jump back to the crew on the Bebop, and he's beat up and they're making fun of him and taking the piss out of him. And that was obviously dissuaded. But again, my ears perked up on, Spike origin story watch when the light hit his eye and it had that weird red and green glint to it. Which I am now thinking that is confirmation that his whole my eye sees the past thing. Again, I don't know what the fuck that means. But he clearly does have some type of prosthesis. And I like it a lot. But no, it was just so much fun. It was just such a fun episode. And, Spike, as a character, and this isn't something I get hung up on. I understand Adventure of the Week. It's not about can he, it's about how will he get out of the latest scrap. But I was so excited to see Spike face a challenge that, like, a lot of the time, it's like the way people talk about Batman and Riddler, or even the Joker, where it's like, they like these villains are not physical threats to Batman.
No.
The moment Bruce solves the puzzle and he walks into the room, he's just going to beat the dog shit out of them. And there's nothing they can do. They're not fighters. That's the whole point, is that they are intellectually his equal. And normally so much of a premium gets put on that with the whole like, oh, it's not a problem you can punch your way out of. And I understand that in media that is dominated, in this like kind of action adventure genre, that is dominated by shoot or punch and or kick your way out of every situation, that people are like, oh, show me something bigger than that. Sure, fine, whatever. I don't necessarily care. It's fun when it happens, but it's not something I'm like, oh, let's make it smarter and elevate it. I love the fact that this episode was like, you cannot shoot or punch your way out of this, nor can you out intellectualize this guy. He's just kind of invincible, and you need to just kind of get lucky.
Yeah. And
it was just so thrilling. He's such a terrifying antagonist as well. Just, how gleeful he is. Did they say he was hunting down like people in the like space CIA, or was it crime bosses?
I think it was the people that experimented on it.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember. It was like ISSP or
it's something like that, yeah. ISSP
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And because I missed it, and I was kind of like just focused on the montage of him getting experimented on. And, again, it's a very kind of classic, kind of tried and true archetype, like we created this monster, now the monster is loose and he's coming for us. But it was the action was very thrilling. And he just moved in such an inhuman way, again, whatever granted him the ability to levitate, the force field, how heavily armed he was. Very exciting. There was a lot of incredible camera work in this, like the first person perspective being used in that early fight between Spike and Poirot. It really hammered home the fact that like this person is a superhuman. I also love like those shots where he was kind of like ping-ponging across the screen. How there's like a brief moment where his face takes up most of the frame.
Yeah.
And it's just this like unhinged, like, if it was live action, I could only almost imagine him salivating at the opportunity to go toe to toe with a competent combatant like Spike in this way, that like, even though he had the drop on him, he was still able to manage as well as one can against something like this. And I really liked the way he's kind of hoisted on his own petard by the end. Again, we're playing with a lot of like genre and trope convention in this episode. But the fact that it's not, you can't outshoot the guy, you can't outfight the guy. All you can do is kind of land this seemingly like kind of negatable wound on him with like the throwing knife. But like the glint in Spike's eye reminding him of the cat, and the fact that like the way it glints when the light hits it, that cat also looked like it had been experimented upon in some way.
It probably had, yeah.
The way its eyes were. So like him falling victim to that and kind of like taking his eye off of the ball to let Spike score that hit. And then, again, it's like it feels like this abandoned theme park was Poirot's kind of base of operations.
Yeah, that's what I've always assumed. anyway.
You know, and I like the fact that, you know, like Jet says, is that, you know, it kind of has like a very, very unmature mind inside of that body that's like capable of like tactical thinking and, you know, incredible violence, but like it is
a child,
of a
right?
child's mind in there. So the fact that it's like, I'm going to use this theme park as my, you know, base of operations and use all of these animatronics and robots and smoke and mirrors, you know, to as a distractionary move. And it works. It keeps Spike on edge. But it's the fact that he is eventually done in by like the giant duck, you know, that like crushes
not
him.
Goofy or Donald animatronic.
Yeah, I mean, if that dog that was dressed like Donald Duck, that animatronic go yuck, you know, I was like, wow, we are on the razor's edge of copyright infringement right now.
Japan in 1999 did not care. I expect Japan in 2025 do not care.
It was just very funny that I was like, again, they took it far enough to go, oh, look, it is a legally distinct version of Goofy wearing a not so quite legally distinct version of Donald Duck's outfit, doing a not so legally distinct Goofy voice. I think the only reason they got away with it is that it stopped just short of going, yuck. Like, other than that, like it made every noise that makes up a yuck without doing it all in a row to finish the yuck thought.
They probably just took the actual laugh and just cut it into 3 and just like,
they chopped it up. They chopped it up like Metro Boomin. They were just like, how much can we like scatter out this audio sample? But no, like I said, it's just absolutely thrilling and chilling. You know, I don't feel like the show, aside from Vicious, who, as excited as I am to see Vicious, I think I'm mostly excited by his place in the story because I feel like every time I see him, it's a catalyst for more development from Spike. And it's a catalyst to learn more about Spike. Is how I've reacted to seeing Vicious appear. Here, you know, it felt for the first time like the show had a villain of the week.
Yeah.
Not just a target for a bounty, not just some like complicated, you know, series of events that will facilitate them going on an adventure. They had to go toe to toe with a psychotic villain, who is an artist of death and despair and violence. And that was a really fun fucking episode. And I absolutely loved it.
Just quickly though, I've noticed something. I really like this episode, and I can't remember if the show did it or not. The Netflix one. I don't think they did. I think they left this out and did Teddy Bomber instead. Which, how they left this one out, I don't know. It's criminal. It's one of the best episodes.
How straight did they play Teddy Bomber?
From what I remember, it was pretty straight. They tried, at least. There was an attempt there.
I'll save that for when we get to that episode. The second episode, it was in terms of like the meat on the bone, I wasn't as enthralled as I was by the first one, and not as entertained as I was.
It's a tough act to follow.
It's an unfortunate sandwiching to go from Poirot as the opener. And again, for the sake of this experiment, Poirot is the opener. You get the sundial, sunstone stuff in the middle, and then you end on such a very entertaining character study. And again, this one was.
I'll be honest.
fun.
I just watched it. I almost forgot. About it completely.
It was fun. Again, these are one of those instances where I admire this show, and frankly, like both of the like full anime series we've covered so far have had this like laissez-faire relationship with how it engages in science fiction. that it will just be like, hey, guess what? Magic rock, shoot it with a laser. It opens a fucking portal to an unstable wormhole. Fuck you. Don't ask why.
I always have looked at it as, I can't remember who said the quote. I want to say it was Alan Moore. The whole thing about who pumps up the tires in the Batmobile. It's just like, fuck you, it's fiction. Who cares? No, I'll do what
I've always hated that example. Bruce Wayne. That's who.
It's sure
Alfred
it's a bad
Pennyworth.
example, but the
Any
whole
number
idea
of
behind
Robins. Like, I see, my answer to that has always been, how do you explain the hyper-industrial versions of the Batcave?
Sure, but the point still is, it's fiction.
Sure.
Fuck you.
It is, and I get that. It's just, for me, when it's not something that irks me too much. It's just when you're in this show that kind of like, again, aside from, okay, it's science fiction, so we've terraformed these other uninhabitable planets in our solar system, and the space travel, and in the far-flung future, it is, all of this Western aesthetic has kind of permeated all of creation at this point, where everything is kind of Old West cowboy, spaghetti Western coded across the board. Something I like that came up episodes ago that I don't think I mentioned is I like how just the term cowboy is colloquially used for bounty hunter. Stuff like that. Cool, whatever. It's whenever it does these weird out of nowhere scientific shark jumps that, again, it doesn't necessarily bother me, but I can't help but notice and be distracted by it.
You're too nerd pilled is what you are.
Sure. Fine. I just, it goes back to Magic Ava Juice with Evangelion, where it was
I think it goes back to Star Wars. I think Star Wars is actually the key. Not that I'm dogging on Star Wars. I think Star Wars is the root cause of we have to examine everything and have a reason for everything.
Not necessarily. I don't think you need a reason for anything. With Star Wars, I know the reasons and it's fun. I don't care about the internal logic, though. I don't care that when you shoot down a starfighter, it does a tail spin like a fighter jet. I know in the real world that's because George Lucas liked movies with World War II dogfights in it. So spaceships move like fighter jets, despite the fact that there's no atmosphere for it to catch fire and go, meow, kapow. I've also watched Revenge of the Sith 3 times in the last week. So, like, I have the very specific image of that Arc 170 getting shot down during the Battle of Coruscant.
Sorry. Bad movie.
Well, tune into the Nerd Academy Podcast YouTube channel where we did our 20 years of Revenge of the Sith, May the 4th special, where I talk about... Huh?
I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, a little bit of sizzle here. I've come to appreciate this movie more than I have for the first time in almost 10 years. Because I've had a very fraught relationship with it.
You mean you dropped the facade for the first time?
Shut up. There's no facade being dropped. And don't get it twisted. There's a nice little 15, 20-minute segment where I'm having my moment of, if this came out today, people would hate it moment. Which we'll see how that...
At one point, it did come out today, and guess what? People hated it.
We'll see how people react to that. But...
but
no, like I said, I don't want to get hung up on it. But again, it's just that silly, okay, guys, we're going to use this and the feng shui stuff. And I'm like, cool, fine, whatever, Yeah, there's a part of my brain that's this random fucking guys is using the Force, I guess.
It is funny how they've gone from having one laser to, I think this is now the third. And despite being a prototype on Spike Ship, it just happens. They just know this is going to work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again,
granted, you have Ed right there. Ed knows everything.
I really do. Who was it? I think it was Darth Chaco, who one of the few great Star Wars TikTok people. He has a show called Dyad in the Force with Element 7. It's a great show. I've been on it. They've been on my show. They're wonderful people. I don't want to just reduce him to TikTok Star Wars guy. But no, I'm lying. It was Element 7. He made a very funny, astute observation whenever The Acolyte was coming out. RIP The Acolyte. We're coming up on a year, and I'm upset about it still.
Did it get canceled in September?
Whenever it got canceled, I'm just saying in general. Like, we're coming up on a year of the show coming up.
RIP. It was too good.
But Element 7 made a funny observation about, like, I think that the proliferation of anime in Western culture and nerd culture in general has created like a weird syndrome where like a lot of people, when it comes to media, need X amount explained and X and Y amount of just kind of taken for granted for things to be logical and make sense. And like did this whole thing about like, let's pretend The Acolyte was an anime and basically did the like internal monologue narration of May kind of like swapping with Osha and like cutting her hair with the lightsaber and whatever. And it was very funny because it's like, I feel like a lot of like nerds need this at this point to understand what's happening. But I also think it's funny the way that a lot of people who like, I think that isn't necessarily to say that one is better than the other, but I think that a lot of people need anime logic applied to Western media in a weird way, where it's like, I don't understand how there's some pieces of media where it's like, well, they shouldn't be able to do that. But in other pieces of media, you just have somebody in the room for the sake of doing one thing and it's taken for granted. Like what you just said about Ed. Like, it is kind of astounding to me that Ed, who proves themselves to be this savant coder and hacker and whatever, is just inexplicably, in a very comic booky way, just a super genius who can just solve any problem that revolves around any type of high level scientific thought. It does not matter what. Like Ed goes from, oh yeah, I hacked a couple satellites and I like do these like hacking pranks on like what's left of Earth, to kind of being your cheat code to getting away with like quantum physics gobbledygook about if you shoot this rock with like an electrified proton laser, it will open a wormhole to an unstable portal housing the guy that we've been looking for. How would he get in there? It doesn't matter. Ed figured it out. And I think it's weird that like that expectation flies in anime. And I think there's a lot of people who watch a lot of anime that would fly for them in Western media. But the majority of people would go, how the fuck does this 12-year-old who, again, technological savant, can just do quantum physics on the fly? You know?
Despite that being a trope in anything since the dawn of man, like the young genius who knows everything, like, yeah, that's always been a thing.
It's always been a thing, you know, but in the same way that, like, you know, credit to the MCU, the super scientists in the MCU, they kind of have a niche for the most part, you know, like Tony Stark, you know, he starts out as an engineering guy and he's around all of this crazy high tech shit. So I buy him eventually doing quantum physics nonsense, but like we never see the Hulk really doing the quantum physics stuff until Tony cracked the code and is able to show it to him. And then they're able to go, okay, let's go from here. You know, does that make sense? Does that a valid comparison?
Yeah.
And it's just something I find astounding is that, like, I think there's a lot of people who I think engage with Western media looking for anime storytelling conventions and view Western media poorly because it does not adhere to a certain rubric. And it's one of those things, you know, it's like that congressional hearing, you know, I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. I can't define what that like anime storytelling mindset is.
No.
I'm also just a stupid American who has spent most of their life consuming Star Wars and superheroes. So, like, again, maybe I'm not a great like litmus for that and pointing it out. But I think this episode was a big a big kind of like example of what I mean when I talk about that. And what I'm thinking of when I speak on that is that like so much of this episode is just taken at face value in a wild fucking way. You know, and I understand that the episode is about you know, this woman like reconnecting with her father and her relationship with her father, and like how the way he dies is symbolic of the way that he lived as a father, of like this like I'm absentee but not by choice. I'm absentee because if I'm not, I'm putting you in grave danger. Like, I understand what this episode is about. I understand the parallels and the symbolism. You know, I understand that it puts Jet in a very precarious situation that I found very compelling, where Jet is like, you know, he's like, yeah, no, I'm not interested in her. And then they put it in his head. And he's like, I said it out loud and it feels gross. I'm more like a big brother to you. And like, you know, I think Jet is having this moment where he's kind of grappling with the lack of family for him. That like he is as old as he is. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have any siblings to our knowledge. You know, he doesn't have a kid. That like, I think that part of it is that like I'm seeing a father who had to make hard decisions, and I'm trying to like kind of like cash in and like pay forward the hard decisions this guy made to give him the goodbye he deserves, and give him the solace of knowing it was your daughter who figured this out. I couldn't do it. She did. You underestimated her. And like the beauty of knowing she was the one who put it all together. That is great. I love it. It's just in these moments, magic rock, feng shui, shoot it with a laser, portal opens. What the fuck is going on?
In the middle of a hyperspace highway.
In the middle of a hyperspace highway.
That they can seemingly stop in.
Which again,
I cut the engines. No, okay.
I think it furthers the way that like I think Cowboy Bebop's hyperspace and like the MCU Guardians hyperspace have more in common than it does with like Star Wars hyperspace. You know, because with Star Wars, like you're basically going so fast you enter a parallel reality and then come out of light speed where you wanted to go. Where with like Guardians and the MCU and this, it's like this is a jump point that will take you through a wormhole, through another like kind of plane of existence, but like it does function more like a highway. That like it's almost like when you're at the airport and there's like the flat floor escalator. It's almost like that for a spaceship, as opposed to with Star Wars, where it is like you are still in flight. By the time you get in there, you can go on autopilot, because at this point you're flying a straight line. That's why hyperlanes and the you know computations are a thing. But like this, I think is more like, you know, it's a cruise control type thing. But anyway, I thought it was fun. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very sweet. Jet's narration, I think, gave it so much personality. I think without Jet narrating this, like it was some type of like 1940s crime noir, it would not have half of the charm it did. No. But because Jet is narrating
it's the first time that this has anime speak in it. Because one of them says something and Jet goes, oh, so in other words, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to explain the entire thing again. It's like, that one really stood out to me. I'm certain it's in this one.
I think it was, I mean, when he was interrogating the one blue dragon goon.
It might have been.
Because to me, I interpreted that as him as a former investigator and now somebody who does, to a certain extent, exist in the criminal underworld, going, okay, here's what you're telling me. Here's what I now infer from what you're willing to say. Is kind of how I interpreted that. No, for sure. But
it might have been in the show before. I just couldn't. It just really stuck out here.
I couldn't tell you. Yeah. But with the third episode,
Teddy Bummer.
Okay, I'm going to do a thing I do a lot on this show, and I'm going to bring up one of two things.
Oh, Star Wars is one of them.
The other one is Kendrick Lamar. I'm bringing up Kendrick Lamar.
Classy.
I want you to know that what was this goof ass's name again? Eddie.
Eddie. Cowboy Eddie.
Okay. Cowboy
like
Eddie.
Eddie. No.
Okay. Cowboy Eddie. That people like Cowboy Eddie is why Not Like Us exists.
But Cowboy Eddie's like Spike.
Cowboy, yes. But there's two elements to Cowboy Eddie. It is the hard-headed, incredibly sure of himself, overly confident, convinced he doesn't need anybody else, bounty hunter rogue. That is Spike. The difference between Spike and Eddie is that Spike is about this life, and Eddie is a tourist.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Eddie does not respect the culture.
No.
Eddie is not.
He's now a samurai.
Yeah. And again, I say, Eddie does not respect the culture. Eddie is not of the culture. And if you're not of the culture, you need to respect the culture. And if you do not respect the culture, I sure hope you're of it. It is not my place to speak on the dynamics of blackness in America, and it is not my place to explain at you why Kendrick Lamar hates Drake. However, what I will say is that every time somebody was like, Kendrick's up at Drake because of he doesn't view him as a black man, it was no, Kendrick hates Drake because Drake shows up in the United States and goes, well, I'm going to take a little bit of Atlanta hip hop, and I'm going to take a little bit of Caribbean, dance hall, and I'm going to take a little bit of New York, and I'm going to take a pinch of West Coast, and I'm going to this, and I'm going to that, and I'm going to this, and I'm Canadian, but here I am with my patois accent that doesn't make any fucking sense. And here's some Spanish influence, and I'm just going to cobble it all together and make the most gobbledygook fucking combination I can make. And white people will love it. And the whole time, I'm just all I could hear every time Eddie opened up his mouth, knowing he was this rich, spoiled kid. All I could hear, you call Future because he didn't see the club. Little baby helped you get your lingo up. 21 gives you false street cred. All I could hear is the third verse from Not Like Us. Of you fucking culture vulture. You are not about this life. Stop cosplaying like you are. You fucking fraud. You fucking fraud. I hate people like Eddie. I hate people like Drake. No, you do not get to masquerade as something you are not and profit heavily off of it. Do you have any idea how excited I got while he was talking? While Spike was about to apprehend the Teddy Bomber. And while Spike was on the cusp of doing it, the Teddy Bomber's like, I know who you are. Every criminal in this part of the galaxy knows who you are. And it's like, oh, that's so fucking cool. Because we see so mind-bogglingly. This must have been how people who were upset that The Mandalorian wasn't just bounty hunting of the week. I was immediately sold on the found family and the religious shit around that show. This must have been how people felt when it went from, here's this guy going on bounty hunting adventures. Oh, wait, he's actually about to become an adoptive father in the journey of that and fixing Mandalorian culture. I think this is how people felt, where I think I bring it up at least once a week where I'm like, can we get them being good at bounty hunting? Can we get fucking adventure of the week shit that moves the plot forward, that develops these characters? But so it feels like almost every episode ends up doing this weird detour where it's like, hey guys, we got to get this thing. But it's not about, we got to capture this guy and bring him in and figure out how to do it. It's, we got to help these people along the way. And that's not bad. That's not bad. That's not a criticism of the show. It's the fucking point. It's the point. And I don't think this show or The Mandalorian for that matter would be half as compelling as they are if it was just, here's a guy on this planet, fly in, he gets away, fly in, he gets away again, fly in, big gunfight, we got him, let's go. But I want a little bit more of that. And I'm like, what's the reputation of these guys? And I kind of want to see other bounty hunters in play here and there. And it was so exciting when he's like, Spike Spiegel, I know who you are. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, he has a reputation. Like, he's not just some up and comer. He's not just some fucking chump. You know, people are like, yeah, what this guy in the weird suit and the green hair and he got a smoke in. When he shows up, you are about to get the ugliest axe kick to the fucking face you have ever seen this side of Ganymede. And you're not gonna feel right for the next few days after he books you, and he's running with a cyborg and some weird fucking kid and some baddie who has that shit on and a weird fucking dog, and everybody's cool in the gang, and you're about to get your shit rocked, bro. It was that's just so fucking cool, and it's like Spike Spiegel and Andy, and I'm like, and like in time with Spike, I'm like, who the fuck is it? Who the fuck is this guy? And he shows up on a horse, and I'm like, and immediately I was like, fuck yeah, this is so goddamn good. This is just mainline into my veins, Mitch. This goofy fucking bullshit. I love it. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay, so he's a fucking buffoon. Yeah, he's just just full rocks for brains, Andy. And I'm loving it, you know. And then we hit this weird moment. I've never watched a character get flanderized inside of 5 minutes. You know, we're like, you know, and then, you know, like the term of flanderization, where Ned Flanders in The Simpsons goes from he's just kind of the annoying evangelical neighbor to he is so devout and evangelical that it makes him stupid to the point where I don't understand how he functions in reality. It's the Patrick Star effect as well. You know, Patrick Star started out not as an unintelligent person, but as somebody who was just kind of a dipshit and lazy. But it snowballed into like Patrick kind of manually breathes.
That's the best way of saying it.
You know, and it's like, and I'm like, okay, Andy, he's kind of this like cocky hotshot, who's like, aha, I caught you, Teddy Bomber, and Spike's like, no, dumbass, it's the security guard. Can't be him. He's the security guard. And I'm like, okay, that's a fun dynamic. I like it. And they get back to the Bebop. Spike gets trampled by a fucking horse. Which, like, I gotta say, that is the most Han Solo Din Djarin thing to happen to Spike Spiegel.
It's like,
I got trampled by a horse by some stupid twink who thinks he's a cowboy.
That horse danced on his back.
That's so funny.
There's three horseshoe prints. That thing just walked up and went bup, 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 and walked up again. Like, just pure disrespect.
So funny. So funny. And again, like it felt so like genuine and real when Spike is back on the ship. He's like, you don't understand. This guy named Andy, first of all, apparently we're famous.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's the fact that has never come up in the show until now, I think is hilarious. At no point do we see them getting jobs because this is only a job the crew of the Bebop could accomplish. You know, at no point is there another person going, Spike Spiegel, I thought you'd come. Bow. You know, that doesn't fucking happen in this show. So Spike has to show up covered in horseshoe prints with a black fucking eye, you know, in real time, not long after he just got shot by like the fucking Oathkeeper penguin the other day at a theme park. And like, because he's got all the guns and he looks like the penguin. Anyway, joke explained. I ruined it. But so he has to show up, go, okay, first of all, we're famous. Second of all, we're just as famous as this fucking guy named Andy.
Eddie. Sure. We're just as famous as fucking guy named Eddie. And Eddie fully dresses like a cowboy. I know that we have colloquially, in the middle of the show, started calling bounty hunters cowboys interchangeably. And that's cool. So much sauce in that. But he's like, when I say he's a cowboy, I don't mean he's a bounty hunter. I mean, he's got an all-white outfit,
with a little like handkerchief tied around his neck and a hat, and he's on a fucking horse. Okay, like Wild Wild West, Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada type shit. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. And then he thought the Teddy Bomber was me, even though I had the Teddy Bomber dead to rights. And then he let the Teddy Bomber get away, and they trampled me with his fucking real ass, whole ass horse.
He is a whole horse, yeah.
He has a whole ass horse, and then everybody's like, "Oh, you sounded saying you're making this shit up," and then they see he's real, and that's hilarious. And then they're at the party, and then we have Jet as this pothead hippie, which was it's just so like this whole episode is so silly. Again, if I could make a Mandalorian comparison, this
is the one with Jack Black and Lizzo in it.
Yes, yes, exactly. Cowboy Funk is the Bebop version of Guns for Hire. Like all we are missing is Captain Bombardier. That is all that we are missing. Christopher Lloyd talking about Count fucking Dooku. Fuck, Christopher Lloyd's character is the same guy as the Teddy Bomber. It's the same character, like Hellgrave or whatever the hell his name was. But fucking so like he shows up, and again, this is what I mean by flanderized in 5 minutes. Because, you look roguish and more like a terrorist than the security guard I saw you axe kick in the face. Show us he's kind of stupid. Show us he's not very bright. You know, kind of a hot shot. He's coasting on money and luck. Cool. We see him again 1 day later in the narrative, 5 minutes later for us in the real world. And he is fully forgotten.
Yep.
That Spike Spiegel is not the Teddy Bomber. And is like, it must be you.
It's so good.
And I'm like, and now we're back at Patrick Star has to manually breathe levels of dumb. And I was astounded. And I was like, okay, the show's playing this completely straight. And Faye's interaction with him is hilarious. And like you said, like, yes, I know that what the show is angling at is that, you know, it's the hard-headedness. It is the sheer, unmitigated, uncut, fresh farm to table hubris in Eddie that is mirrored in Spike. I think you could go so far as to say that Spike thinks of himself as this roguish, swashbuckling cowboy, when to the rest of the galaxy,
he's Eddie.
He looks like Eddie. He acts like Eddie because again, they don't know him. They don't know the inside baseball of how, like, you know, there's a very depressed. This is a very depressed, haunted man. A man who is like, you know, again, not to get abruptly heavy with how silly I've been talking about this episode, but like Spike is kind of really toying with suicidal ideation in like the end of last week's batch. You know,
even the start of this one.
Even the start.
Oh, maybe this is the one that I don't come back from. Like,
yeah, and he immediately couches it in a joke. And I forgot to mention that. I was like, holy shit! Like, you know, like this is a guy who's like very, you know, live and let die with his own well-being. And it's
whatever happens.
Whatever happens. And it's so haunting. But like everybody else in the galaxy doesn't fucking know that. They just know this guy shows up with a wisecrack, axe kicks somebody, unloads into something, and then walks away scot-free. It is just arrogance and dumb fucking luck that gets him out of most of these situations. And so I understand all of that like this is what Spike feels like to everybody else in the room. And why the comparisons are so stark to everyone else. But holy shit, is this guy brain dead?
Yeah.
This is a deeply stupid individual. And I think what does set them apart is when they have their little duel in the rubble of the city hall, which is great. What sets them apart you know, and I think it's what made the first episode of this batch and the last episode of this batch kind of like great companions. Is Spike was going to fight Poirot to the death. Be that because he does not value his own life. Be that because Spike is incredibly arrogant. Be that because Spike has, like, he does, as much as he won't admit it, a pretty profound sense of justice. Whatever that may be, either he was going to kill Poirot or Poirot was going to kill him. That was the only way that fight ended. Eddie gets punched in the mouth one time really good. And then sees Spike accidentally cause more collateral damage. And then goes, you win. Because Eddie isn't about this fucking life, Mitch.
But what does Eddie say? You forgot something.
I know. He says, see you, Space Cowboy. And it's awesome. And I clapped.
So
I clapped, Mitch.
Something like that.
But it was so funny. And like I said, like this third episode, like, again, I truly could only compare it to The Mandalorian in terms of, like, it was so poignant while being so pulpy and silly. You know, again, like that, it is hard to mix pulp and not pulp and poignant, but silly and poignant as well as it did here. And I was absolutely blown away. And then, and then he shows up as a fucking samurai and like Japaneseifies Geronimo, which I out loud went, whoa! That's like,
but it's fine because it's Japanese made, Jarod.
I know it's fine because it's Japanese made, but this blonde hair, blue eyed fucking fail son from Earth is like smashing together 3 different cultures at once. And I was like, I don't know where he was from, when Earth was still a thing, but I can tell you this, that's an American. That guy is from the US of A, because I have never seen anybody go, hey, these sure smash them together, you know?
It's so good.
It was incredible. It was so goddamn good.
So
See You, Space Samurai was a banger. Also, I have to say, and maybe it's because it kind of looked like the Star Wars logo.
Bebop logo.
The title card bumpers in this one were my favorite of the show yet. Oh God, I was fucking I saw it and I went, ooh.
You know what? I knew you would. I haven't given it a second, that one bit of thought the entire time. That the second that pops up, I'm like, he's going to make a comment. There's going to be something about that one logo.
Felt warsy. But yeah.
Kind of Futurama-y, but...
I mean, there's a specific... I don't know how frequently it's been used, but there is a specific version of the Star Wars logo that does look like that, and it's whenever they're trying to be a little bit more Buck Rogers-y. I know there's I don't know if you've ever read it. It's really cool. They did a comic book adaptation of one of the early versions of Star Wars. I think it came up. I don't know if we were on the air. I think it was like that was after you and I were just shooting the shit after we finished recording. Where it was like, you know, Han Solo was like a Jedi kind of, and Anakin Skywalker was a completely distinct character who had nothing to do with Luke or Vader. Because it was Luke's Star Killer. Yeah, you know, because we were talking about like the concept art and how I was like, oh, like, you know, I'm sure that like Hot Toys is going to have a field day with, you know, Luke's
that
Star
was a couple
Killer.
of weeks ago because we were talking about the Darth Maul concept art one.
That's it. Yeah.
I was either before or after the show. It's definitely not during it, but yeah.
Yeah, but the logo on that one was like, again, like the based on the early drafts from George Lucas, the Star Wars. It was in that same font. And I had that whole comic run where they just adapted it. And I gotta find that now. Holy shit. I bet I know exactly where it is now that I think about it. But yeah, it that one made me happy. I was like, oh, I like that. That looks good. I'd wear that. I'd wear that as a t-shirt.
Get on Roosevelt.
Cowboy Bebop. Man, listen. Roosevelt's has been doing lots of anime lately. They got One Piece, they got Dragon Ball, they have Gundam. I feel like
it's Gundam Wing, isn't it? Because it's the 30th. I assume.
I think it was that. Yeah, I'm trying to think all the anime collections they've done. At the very least, those three.
I say One Piece and Dragon Ball would surprise me in the slightest.
No, Naruto. They have the Naruto line as well.
Doesn't surprise me in the slightest either.
And those are kind of like the three most easily merchandisable anime franchises out there, and they become the most popular.
You're missing a fourth. There are 4 in there. Bleach, yes. Well done, you. I'm sure. That makes you proud.
You can thank Levi for that one.
Have you seen any of Bleach?
I think he tried to show me one episode, and I was like, I'm not feeling this, dog.
Was that if it was the first episode? Then I don't blame you.
I don't know. Also, Levi, I forgot to text you back. I'll get back to you about watching the rest of Code Geass probably in June. I love you. I know you're watching. The TV's talking to you.
Hi, Levi. No, Jarod's busy in June with anime. I tell you right now.
Jarod needs a little bit of a break.
I was trying to think of this. I was like, how do I get
Jarod a
break? Like, get it.
I gotta get through Daredevil. We gotta talk about Daredevil still. I gotta get through Andor. I gotta get through Thunderbolts.
You haven't got to get through Andor. You can ignore that one.
No, I gotta get through Tales of the Empire. There's a lot coming up in the next week and a half. And this episode almost not coming out because of the horrifying storm that came through Western PA.
We were very close.
We were very.
I completely resigned the fact. I was like, it's going to be the first one we miss. It's like, no.
We got power back at 4 a.m, and the only reason I knew was because we came home last night. So we lost power as Taylor and I were getting ready to leave. I went into town with my family because the next morning I had my tattoo appointment with the artist who lives in my hometown. Got my Star Killer lightsaber tattoo. And so I didn't have super long. So I was waiting for Taylor to come home from work, and we were like, okay, hopefully we have power again, but we were like checking and we did. So we get home a little late last night, turn in for bed, and I turned the fan on. Obviously we didn't have power, but I knew we didn't have power. So I turned the fan on full blast and pointed it directly at my face. So I was like, if we get power in the middle of the night, we will know and be able to plan accordingly. So at like 4:30 in the morning, out of nowhere, just big gust of wind. And it like took my breath away. I'm like, oh, we have power. And I was like, and then I had to like run around the house like a crazy person, turning off all the lights that were on when we lost power at 4:30.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The day before. Yeah. But anyway, because of that, this episode almost didn't come out. We were able to sneak one in before I went on vacation, but Mother Nature was like, you're going to miss one. And we said, no, man stands defiant.
It's also the fact that it was like, we're going to do a head-to-head on Tuesday or back-to-back on Tuesday. It's like, cool, we're going to be fine. No,
yeah,
can't
and
do Tuesday.
Slept in. Dude, I felt like I could not sleep worth a damn Monday night. I could not sleep worth a damn on Monday night, and I slept in so late. I had so much laundry to get taken care of and shit to do around the house. I barely had time for it.
It's cool. At the end of the day,
we're gonna miss it.
We got it done.
At the end of the day, we got it done.
As long as nothing happens to the recording or anyone's hardware.
Yeah, we should be fine. I mean, I don't think the storm's coming. Sorry, couldn't help myself.
There was a split second. I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, no, he's doing a bit. He's doing a bit. You'll come back. You'll come back.
I'm doing a bit. By the way, I will need a little bit of a breakie because there is just
you will have
much
a break.
shit
You
going
will have
on.
a break. We will figure this out. We will figure this one out.
I said June to Levi, probably end of May. We'll figure it out. I love you. The TV's talking to you. All of that said, I love these 3 episodes. I thought they were a blast. Like I said, I was a little whelmed last week. Levi did make fun of you to me about spoiled whiskey as one of the funniest, most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life. And I hope you know you're going to carry that with you until the end of time.
It's fine. He says it wasn't intentional.
Don't Xanatos gambit your way out of saying something objectively stupid.
You do it all the time. It's fine.
I don't, actually. Everything I say is incredibly intelligent and well thought out. There is no fucking baby. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, so insightful, that one, yeah.
That one defined an entire season of your show, sir.
It did, yeah. Yeah.
Imagine
the Mind Palace defined it. No, I'm not going to give you that one. The Mind Palace. Because the Mind Palace still carries on to this day.
Sure. Sure.
But anyway.
Yeah, very happy with this batch of episodes.
Roasting hot. Good, that's what we like to hear. And of course, next week we're only doing 2. Because we only got 4 left.
We're in the end game
doing
now.
2 and 2 in the end game, yeah.
We're in the end game, folks. I am excited.
We're getting there. No. Will Spike get character development? Who knows?
Hey, you know what? And if he doesn't, whatever happens, happens.
And we will see you, Space Cowboys.
I don't get to do any pluggables.
Plug. Jarod, where?
I wait to be invited to do so, and I'm used to you doing it. Over on the Nerd Academy podcast, we have a little bit of catching up to do. Obviously, Taylor and I came back from our trip. And then, like I said, big storm, fucked everything up. I was even supposed to be on Comic Book Cast this last week to talk about Star Wars Celebration, and Armin was like, yeah, we'll do it. And then I didn't hear from him, and I also slept in that day anyway, so who knows?
No one's heard from him. Don't worry about it. No.
Okay. Well, best wishes to the big homie. That's not true. I did hear from him because he said he would help boost the May the 4th episode. But by the time you're seeing this, it will already be out. But to celebrate May the 4th this year, we are doing a 20th anniversary retrospective on the Revenge of the Sith. It's back in theaters. Fun little kind of decompression session. It's going to be me, Kaysen, Connor, newest member of Team TNAT, Bill Sheehy, and special guest Michael McCoy of All Remaining Systems, the Dungeon Master of Ionized Bastards, which we are now also in the end game for. We only have about 3, I think he said only 3 or 4 sessions left of this final season, with hopefully the next one coming out next week. So stay tuned. I'm excited. I'm bittersweet about it all. But the only thing holding me over, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of sizzle. We are in the early planning stages of the next RPG show. And 2 Ionized Bastards players will be returning, and there will be 2 new ones. And
so it's you and Alden coming back.
I don't know why you would assume it's me and Alden coming back.
Because why wouldn't it be you and Alden? A, you're the free house and the bingo card. Let's be real here. Oh, the only thing holding me over is we're working on it. Yeah, thank you for telling everyone that you are one of them. The other one, I don't know. I just got the impression Alden would be.
I think A, Michael wanted to switch it up. B, Jerry has a new work schedule that's going to be pretty gnarly working around.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair.
So also giving Jerry a little time off from doing multiple shows a week. I'm used to it. Alden's used to it. Jerry's normally like Bombad cast on Thursdays and that's it. And he's got to iron out scheduling shit. But yeah, 2 new people. And we are going to be doing a new era of Star Wars, and we are also going to be using a new game system as well. So it won't be Star Wars 5e, nor will it be the Star Wars Fantasy Flight series game mechanics. So yeah, stay tuned to the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel for that. And yeah, Ionized Bastards coming towards the end here, and I think my epic confrontation epic confrontation.
So smart and insightful.
Against Scotty Holiday. It was coming out this week, I believe, because I'm filming the cutscene we need for it Friday night. And that was like the last thing Eli needed because it involved somebody who was at Celebration and their schedule is just now clearing up. So
it's fair. That's fair.
So yeah, Ionized Bastards, Epic Confrontations, and of course, the Nerd Academy podcast. All the things. So yeah,
cool.
That's what I got.
And on the Mitch692 channel, right?
Of course.
Yeah. I have my Final Fantasy 14 Sprout Tanks video. I did it, clocked to 1,000 hours and decided I'm going to try tanking and not be a DPS for once. So I made a little video about my experience of that.
Can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question all you want.
I know what it means
to be a tank
contextually. What does DPS stand for?
Damage per second.
I was right. As I said that to Taylor while she was gearing up for a big fight in Baldur's Gate. I was like, honestly, you need to go 1 support, 3 DPS for this. And she went, what the fuck does that mean? And I said, hit him hard. And I was like, I know DPS means damage, but yeah, okay.
You have your DPS, you have your melee DPS, you have range DPS, you have magical DPS, you have DPS.
Yes.
But yes. So I went from that to tanking, and you can find out how that went. Tankxiety is real. That's what I'm going to say. After this episode comes out, though, so next week I will also have, fingers crossed, I've got to actually finish editing off. Yeah, my Monster Hunter Wilds title update 1 thoughts coming out on that, because obviously we've got 3 new monsters and there's an event going on, so I've got that to come in. And of course, like everyone else on the planet, I am playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33. If you're not playing it, please go play it. It is Game of the Year. Might be a generational RPG. I say might, it is. Go play it. I will have my review out on that in the end of the month, hopefully. So yeah.
Excellent.
I wish I knew more French, because I'd say see you Space Cowboy in French, but...
Well, we will see all of you Space Samurai.
Au revoir, mes amis.